We are live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app, over the air, streaming, and on a podcast. As soon as the show is over after 4 o'clock, we post the podcast every day so you can hear whatever it is you missed. We are going to spend some time on yesterday's interview with the Los Angeles Fire Department Chief, Jaime Moore. The whole video is on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, and you can subscribe by going to youtube.com/@John Kobylt Show, and we've posted the video. It's about 15 minutes or so. We were allocated 10, and Jaime Moore, the chief, graciously stretched it a little longer. And most of the media outlets were lined up all afternoon talking to him, and it was supposed to be 10-minute increments. And it is hard to cover the breadth and depth of this story in 10 minutes, but I think we did. I think we had a good conversation on some of the most important issues. Other interviews were done with, like, the LA Times that hit on other aspects, and I'll get to them later. But I just want to express my just general frustration that this has to be like pulling teeth. I know the root of this is that Karen Bass is trying to cover this up as best she can for as long as she can and try to get reelected. She has no interest in any of us knowing the full story. I mean, what I think has happened is unconscionable, inexcusable, awful, incompetent, and should completely disqualify her from holding any office for the rest of her life. And for her to be going out of her way to intimidate people so that nobody ever tells the truth in public is just horrific, considering the damage that's been done, the lives lost, the property damage. It's unbelievable, and it's really, really frustrating. And if you ninnies in her office thinks that we're ever going to back down, that's never going to happen. And if somehow she gets elected, because I have no confidence in the intelligence of a lot of people that live in this city, we're going to hound you for the next 5 years, constantly reminding of what you did. Because what you did was horrific, and you ought to resign, and you have no business serving the public in any capacity. So everything is a wrestling match to some extent. It can be a polite wrestling match, or it can be a nasty wrestling match. And, I know this. I know every day when we do this and every time we have people on, you're not going to quite get what you have to, and you could beat them over the head and rant and rave, and you're still not going to get it. And talking to Jaime Moore, what I did appreciate, at least, is he admitted that there were a lot of wrong decisions made. He wasn't, a lot of time in government, you get people who try to sell you that, well, it actually was the right decision, and here's why. It's like, no, this was wrong. What we cannot get is the detail. Who specifically made the decisions and what was going on in their heads? When did they have the meetings? Who was at the meetings? And who ultimately said, wow, this is the best way to go? Because a lot of this stuff is just crazy wrong. I'm going to play a couple of cuts here. Let me tell you what I want to do. Talk about this, take a couple, play some cuts, so in case you weren't here in the 2 o'clock hour yesterday. And that is where you can find it, the 2 o'clock hour on the iHeartRadio app from yesterday. Or you can look at the segment in video on YouTube. And next hour, we're going to take calls from people. I figured since most of the people who have heard the interview were in the 2 o'clock hour, then 2 o'clock hour will take the calls. This hour, I'm going to play a couple of cuts if you missed it. We're going to talk to Freddie Escobar at 1:30. He's heard the interview. He is the LA Fire Department union head. And he has run into a speed bump because he was suddenly accused of falsifying expenses, claiming he didn't have receipts. He's in the middle of a 3-day trial over those receipts and those expenses. And he said he knows why. It's because he was very critical of what the fire department did, what Karen Bass did. And Bass, of course, fired Kristen Crowley because she told the truth as well. And the big truth in all of this is that Karen Bass, as well as the mayors before her, Eric Garcetti and Antonio Villaraigosa, severely underfunded the fire department. Like, it's only funded to a 50% level. We have roughly the same amount of firefighters and the same amount of fire stations that we did in the 1960s. And this has gone on for decades. And Bass made it worse. She added more cuts. I mean, they're already down to the bare bones. And unfortunately, Kristen Crowley and others who are unnamed at this point made decisions that morning on January 7th because they didn't want to spend the money. That's why the second shift of firefighters weren't asked to remain on the job, to stay on for another shift. And that's why they didn't pre-deploy more fire trucks, fire engines, and firefighters to places like the Palisades. I mean, there were a lot of things wrong, but that's one of the original sins, is that the fire department, and by the police department as well, not funded properly. Let me play you cut number 3. This is me talking with Chief Jaime Moore, that people want to know how many bad decisions could have happened all at the same time.
I think people want to know how many bad decisions could be made in such a short period of time. It seems like every decision ended up being the wrong decision. How could that be with all the experience and the training that your department has?
Well, you're absolutely right. It does seem like there were a lot of bad decisions that were made. We didn't anticipate this magnitude of a storm. It was in perfect alignment. We had anywhere from 40 to 90 mile an hour winds. There were hurricane force winds with occasional gusts up to 100 miles an hour.
But there wasn't continuous 90 mile an hour winds. Most of the time it was closer to 40, all right? Maybe high up on a mountain there was a gust at 90. So when it was blazing through the town itself, those weren't 90 mile an hour winds. They were 40 mile an hour winds. And the thing is, we work here. We were broadcasting mornings for a week about what was going to happen. We collected all the Twitter messages online, all the apocalyptic language from the National Weather Service. Like, it's impossible for people in charge not to know that this had a very good chance of being this disastrous.
John, you're absolutely right. But let me tell you this: with 460 square miles of the city of Los Angeles and the amount of wildland-urban interface, we can't put the number of resources we have all over the place.
But the Palisades had the hot spot. The Palisades had the Lockman Fire hot spot.
In hindsight, you're absolutely right, but we did not know that at the time. And if we had the ability to look back and in hindsight, we would have had a resource sitting right on top of it. And I wasn't the fire chief at the time. I didn't deploy the resources at the time, but I can tell you this: moving forward, we're going to have a better deployment model. We have a better decision-making matrix. We have a larger number of resources that will be deployed, and we have newer resources. We have Type 6 resources, which are wildland-urban interface specialized resources to be able to handle those roads that are up in the mountains like that. And then we also have hand crews. We didn't have hand crews at the time that were dedicated to the city of Los Angeles. In my budget moving forward, I got another hand crew that's on in request. So I've got funding coming for an additional helicopter. I've got requests for funding for more personnel. Those are the things that are going to help us in the future. But it's also the decision making. So we put policies and procedures in place so we don't make those same mistakes that we've made in the past.
Great. He's very future oriented. I am past oriented. I want to know how you have a fire department with thousands of people. Many of them are a very long time. And to tell me that we didn't know it was a hot spot, you had a fire there 6 days before. By definition, it's a hot spot. It is the hot spot. That may have been the only hot spot. If you've got one crew to spare, you send it there. Because while he talked about LA being 460 square miles or whatever, there wasn't going to be a wildfire in mid-city. There wasn't going to be a fire in downtown or Koreatown or in Venice. A lot of these places have never seen wildfires because there's no wild there. The wildfires tend to happen along the Santa Monica mountain ridge, potentially on either side. And you know the towns. It would be the Palisades and Brentwood and Bel Air and the Hollywood Hills. And on the other side, Encino and Tarzana and Sherman Oaks and Studio City and a few other places. That's where the bulk of the fires tend to happen because that's endless wildland. And I'm glad that he agreed several times that, yes, stuff I was saying was absolutely right. And it's no special wisdom or knowledge that I have. It's just clear. So again, come clean with all the details as to who said what to who to decide that nobody's going to go to the Palisades. And that story is still very murky.